So I have another Soulwinning tip video for you guys, and this one's a very simple tip, but it's actually very useful, and I'm going to explain exactly why it is useful. So the tip that I'm going to give you is you should ask for the person's name. Okay, so you should ask for their name, right? Basically, you meet them, you basically say like, hey, would you like to see this? Can I share this with you? And they say yes, right? Once you sit down with them, or once you start the conversation with them, then you tell them, hey, my name is Jerry. Hey, what's your name? And they're gonna say like, oh, my name is John, Brian, whatever. And then you can shake their hand, right? And you can say, hey, well, it's nice to meet you, John. It's nice to meet you, Brian. And then you go into your gospel presentation. Now, why is it important to get their name, right? Well, first of all, the reason why I think it's important to get their name is because when you're getting their name, you're kind of reducing the stranger effect, if you will, right? Because obviously you're a random person approaching them at the park or at the door or whatever, so obviously they're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable in a sense because it's like they don't really know you. But when you ask for their name, right, and then you use their name throughout the presentation, right, then it's going to help build trust with that person so that they feel a little bit more comfortable as they're talking to you, so that they'll feel more comfortable opening up about their own beliefs. Like when you ask them about what do you have to do to get to heaven or blah blah blah, like asking about their beliefs about so and so, then they're gonna feel more open to do that, or they'll have more trust with you because you're asking for their name and using their name. It's gonna build trust with that person, right? That's kind of an important thing in life in general. People like to hear their names being said. And so, you could say things like, hey, but here's the thing, Brian, does God want us to go to hell? Right? And 3 days after Jesus died, Brian, what happened to him? Right? And they'll answer the question. But as you're using their name, you're kind of reinforcing their name back to them. And people appreciate that. They like that. You build trust with them. It's going to make them more comfortable as you're presenting the gospel to them. Okay. Now, another reason why it's always a good idea to get people's names is because if you're in a group setting, right? Let's say there's two people, let's say there's three people, right? You ask for their names, right? So let's say this is John, this is Brian, this is Mark, or whatever, right? So basically, as you're talking to John, Brian, and Mark, right, and then you get to the recap phase where you're asking questions individually to each of them, right? You could say something like, so John, do you believe you're a sinner? And then John says yes. And then Mark says, or you say to Mark, you say, and because we're sinners, Mark, where do we deserve to go? You say hell, right? And then you can ask Brian, you could say, and Brian, do you believe hell's a place of fire that'll last forever? He says yes, right? And then you kind of distribute the questions evenly across these three friends, and you can easily do that because now you know their names to refer to each of them as you're asking them those individual questions, right? Now, there is one question where I would want to get all their answers or all their perspectives on it, where basically I would ask them like, hey, like, you guys were saying blah, 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 blah to get to heaven. Do you still believe that or have you changed your mind, right? I want to make sure all three of them or all two of them or whatever, I want to make sure all of them say that they have changed their mind, right? But obviously, it's good to kind of distribute the questions as far as the rest of the recap questions because I might just repeat what the friend is saying. But if it's like, hey, if you're going from person to person to person, and you can do that because you ask for their names and you're using their names to refer to them, then they can't rely on what their friend is going to say. They have to kind of answer for themselves, and that's kind of a better way to go about it. So not only is asking for their name a good idea because it helps build trust with that person, they feel a little bit more comfortable with you. But also another reason too, as well, is that when you ask for their name, it's going to make it easier to refer to people when you're in more of a group setting. So it's a very convenient idea to ask for their name.